Since my brother's marriage, my living arrangement has comprised just my mother and me. Despite being frustrated with her attitude, I'm grateful for the upbringing she provided. Unexpectedly, she decided to distance herself from me. Despite my substantial financial support, she, with the involvement of my brother and his wife, evicted me from our home. This betrayal is something I can't forgive, and I am determined to retaliate against them with double the force. I go by the name Emily and am currently 25 years old. A few years back, my father passed away, and my brother Tom, who is a decade older, departed after tying the knot. Consequently, I find myself cohabitating with my mother. The truth is, I've harbored dissatisfaction about living with her. Once I began working, my mother quit her part-time job and assumed a lethargic lifestyle at home. What's more, she treated me as though I were her personal maid. Emily, why isn't dinner ready yet? Oh, by the way, I've run out of money this month. Can you spare an extra $200? And while I'm out today, make sure you clean my room. And the demands just go on. The litany of requests seems never ending. Some might suggest that if I'm so discontented, I should just live independently. Admittedly, the thought of leaving the house has crossed my mind several times. However, she is my biological mother. After my father's passing, she single-handedly raised me. Tom, my brother, moved far away after getting married, and his wife, Catherine, vehemently refuses to live with my mother. Consequently, relying on him is not a viable option. Given the circumstances, as her daughter, I've never entertained the idea of abandoning her. Yet, as a human being, regardless of the biological connection, there's a limit to what I can endure, and I find myself unable to tolerate everything. Today, involuntarily raised my voice at my mother. Mom, some money from my wallet is missing. Did you take it again? What a terrible accusation. I needed some money for clothes, so I borrowed it temporarily. Borrowed? You've never once repaid the money I've lent you. Please stop taking it without asking for permission. Do you even realize who you owe for your upbringing? It's all thanks to me. You're so frustrating. I acknowledge I owe you, Mom, but this isn't the way to repay the favor. Now that you're self-sufficient, it's only fair to take care of me. Don't complain about borrowing a few $100s. This happens every single time. Every time I confront my mother, she retorts with statements like, I'm the one who raised you, or do you realize who you owe for your upbringing? Leaving me without words. I understand that my mother worked hard to raise me, making it challenging to argue back. To be honest, I have a decent salary and money isn't an issue for me. Even if I handed my mother $2,000 every month, it wouldn't significantly impact my lifestyle. Nonetheless, I've always felt the need to establish boundaries and not let my mother take advantage indefinitely. One day, after wrapping up my work and returning home, I was surprised to find Tom and Catherine there. The last time we crossed paths was at my father's funeral, and we hadn't stayed in touch since then. Hey, Emily, it's been a while. You still have that gloomy aura around you, huh? My brother's insensitivity remained unchanged. He had a knack for looking down on me and poking fun since our childhood. Why are you here, Tom? Do I need a reason to visit my parents' house? We demolished our family home after Dad passed away, and I'm the one renting this apartment. Don't be so uptight. Our family is finally together after so long. As we exchanged words, Catherine interjected, Emily, you're as uptight as ever. With that kind of attitude, you'll never get married. Catherine, Tom's wife, would make such remarks without a hint of remorse. Her comment, much like Tom's behavior, was tactless. I've harbored a dislike for the two of them for quite some time. After having dinner alone, I retreated to my room. My mother, evidently delighted to see Tom after such a long time, kept chatting animatedly with a smile on her face. It appeared that the three of them occasionally indulged in gossip about me. Since that day, for some inexplicable reason, Tom and Catherine began making more frequent visits to my place. Another irksome aspect was their apparent disregard for the fact that this was my home. They seemed excessively at ease in my apartment. "Hey, Tom, what's going on? This is my place, you know. What about your job? You're so bothersome. What does it matter to you? I'm here because I'm concerned about Mom and I want to visit her often. You never reached out once since our father's funeral. It's none of your business. Come to think of it, I'm hungry. Cook something and do it quickly. What's with this guy? Seriously, this is my place, isn't it? Why are they lounging around as if they own the place? I'm in the mood for a delicious cake, Emily. Buy me one." Catherine's request prompts even my mother to join in. "You finished work today, right? So you have time. Hurry up and go buy it for us, you lazy girl." It's perplexing how Catherine, who once avoided living with my mother and detested her, has suddenly become quite chummy with her. As for Tom, he's adopting an attitude of, "I'm the eldest son, and Catherine is the eldest son's wife, so it's only natural for us to be concerned about Mom." Observing their behavior, it's evident that the two of them are plotting something. I'm not entirely sure about their intentions yet, but it's clear it's not something favorable. Several days passed, and Tom and Catherine's scheme finally unfolded. "Emily, I've reached my limit living with you. I've decided to end this cohabitation." I was engrossed in household chores on my day off when my mother dropped this bombshell. "What do you mean by that?" "Exactly what I said. I can't endure living with someone as slow, lazy, and unattractive as you any longer." "What are you talking about? Don't you understand? I've made up my mind. I'm going to live with Tom and Catherine." "You're going to live with Tom and Catherine." I was so taken aback by this unexpected revelation from my mother that I unintentionally echoed her words. The couple who consistently opposed the idea of living with my mother now wants to share a residence with her. What on earth is happening? Just then, Tom and Catherine conveniently arrived. "Tom, what's happening? You never expressed any interest before, and you consistently asserted you'd never live with Mom, right? What's the issue with that? It's only natural for the eldest son to live with his own mother, isn't it?" Tom, looking down on me with a sense of superiority, made this statement. "Don't tell me you have some kind of issue. If you can't live with Mom, no, that's not what I'm saying. But then it's fine for Mom to live with us, right? Are you serious?" Even Catherine was vehemently against cohabitation. "Why the sudden change? You're so bothersome. Anyway, Mom has decided to live with us. We don't need you anymore. Just leave." "Wait, leave? After all this time when I took care of everything about Mom?" It can't help but feel repulsed by my brother's arrogant words. However, it became evident that Tom and Catherine were up to something nefarious. Despite my mother's sharp tongue, she remains my only precious parent. Besides, I wouldn't want to get entangled in any trouble later on. I decided to caution my mother. "Mom, isn't it clear that something's amiss? After all, Tom and his wife never once reached out to us before. What are you talking about? If anyone's acting strange, it's you, isn't it? Huh? Mom, those who just exploit their parents should leave." The moment she said that, any remaining affection I had for my mother vanished instantly. After all the support I've provided and taking care of her, how dare she utter such words to her own daughter who has been supporting her all these years? But this is the only time they can mock me like this, you know. After a week, they'll experience hell, so they better relish this moment. I began plotting my retaliation against them. "Then I'll leave right now." I declared this resolutely to my brother, his wife, and my mother. The three of them began to chat, exchanging smirks. "Emily, you're finally leaving the house. Mom, you must be so happy." "I truly am. Now I can live with Tom and Catherine. I'm on top of the world." From now on, I'll be the one taking care of Mom. Thank you, Tom. I'm also thrilled that I can live with my beloved mother-in-law from now on. Oh, thank you too, Catherine. The three of them continued their frivolous conversation. To be honest, I was struggling not to laugh at that moment, but I can't let them perceive that I have any room to execute my revenge flawlessly. It's best to lay low for now. From that day forward, my brother and his wife seemed to be a constant presence in my apartment. As for me, it's as if I'm invisible to them, or rather, they treated me as if I never existed in the first place. However, this turned out to be advantageous for me because I wasn't bothered at all while preparing to move out. A week later, it was my moving day. The moment he opened his mouth, Tom said, "Today is the day we part ways, Emily. We'll be taking care of Mom from now on, so you can live without any worries. Thank you. I'm leaving Mom in your hands." Okay, after delivering this casual statement, Tom seemed somewhat dissatisfied with my response. Then my mother approached. "I hope you get married soon, Emily. It'd be a shame to remain single for the rest of your life, wouldn't it? You know the whole society would call a person like you a loser." In response to my mother's words, Tom and his wife snickered. Facing her remarks, I replied calmly, "That's true. From now on, I've decided to live just for myself. I mean, I no longer have to take care of you now, right? Just stop talking and get out. I never asked you to look after me. I was going to leave quickly anyway. Oh, it seems like they've arrived." I heard the doorbell ring, so I made my way to the entrance. It was the movers from the moving company I had scheduled for today. After having them transport all the belongings from my room, I gestured towards the living room and instructed the movers, "Oh, and please relocate all the appliances and furniture in these rooms too." Huh, the dumbfounded voices of the three harmonized perfectly. They were utterly perplexed by what was unfolding. That TV, the fridge, the microwave. Oh, and this cleaning robot too. Also, the sofa, dining table, and the bed. Please move everything. Then my mother started to argue. What? What are you thinking? Stop this immediately. What do you mean? Am I doing something strange? Don't play dumb. Taking all the appliances and furniture from this house. Have you lost your mind? In response, my brother, his face as red as a tomato, approached me aggressively. Yo, listen to Mom. How do you expect us to live without any furniture or appliances? You have no right to take everything. Leave everything here and just go. My mother and brother were quarreling in front of me. Realizing I shouldn't waste any more time, I decided to clarify the situation for the two. Hey, are you getting the wrong idea or something? Everything in this apartment, including the apartment itself and all its appliances and furniture, belongs to me. You know this is Mom's place, right? Don't mess with me. All the furniture and appliances were bought using the inheritance from Dad, weren't they? As I had anticipated, he misunderstood and believed that my mother was financing everything in my apartment. He assumed she had received a significant inheritance from my father and had cleverly convinced them to live with her. Tom, aren't you misunderstanding something? I bought everything in here. I've been giving Mom a monthly support of $2,000, you know. Thus losses. You just want to live with Mom, don't you? Someday I'll inherit Dad's inheritance. What are you talking about? Mom used up all of Dad's inheritance a long time ago. Tom nervously glanced at our mother, who was looking down with a pale face. Mom, please explain. You told us you bought all the appliances in here. Well, I was just trying to look good. What do you mean by that? We only moved in with you because we thought there was an inheritance from Dad. If there's no inheritance, what's the point of living together? Wait, what are you saying? Didn't you say you take care of me because you're the eldest son? I was just trying to be nice. I lied so that we can live together. Upon discovering there was no remaining inheritance, Tom was furious. And my mother was deeply shaken by the revelation that the kindness displayed by Tom and his wife was all a facade. What a dysfunctional family, huh? My mother should have been suspicious when Tom and his wife, who had been out of touch for a while, suddenly suggested living together. If Tom had kept in touch, he would have learned sooner that there was no inheritance left from Dad. As I cast cold glances at the two, Tom's wife seemed to have a solution and spoke up. I've got it. It would be great if Emily could live with us again. To this, my mother and Tom both agreed. That's right, Emily. You should live with us. After all, yes, Emily, I really do need you. Observing the sudden change in their attitude as they began speaking for their own convenience, I promptly dismissed them. What are you even saying? Don't make me laugh. There's no way I'd live with deceitful people like you all. I've decided to live only for myself from now on. Whatever happens to you all, I couldn't care less. But why don't you all just happily ruin your lives together? The three of them, completely drained of energy, sat down on the spot as if their knees had given away. All three had vacant eyes. Goodbye. Do your best as a family. With that, I closed the front door. In just another 2 weeks, the lease for the apartment would end because it's under my name. They'll probably be forced to leave when the lease is up. Well, it's none of my business anymore. About a week after successfully settling into my new place, as anticipated, I received a call from my mother seeking help. Emily, please. I can't live properly like this. Come back. There's no way I'm returning. Why don't you have that foolish couple take care of you? Actually, it seems they quit their jobs and moved here, thinking I still had your father's inheritance. They really are terrible people, aren't they? I don't feel inclined to help at all. I no longer need a couple who only cares about money. All I have is you, Emily. Mom, I'm busy. Can I hang up now, please? Emily, help me. I hung up before she could finish and blocked her number. The desire to assist my mother is long gone, especially not now. Rumors circulated that my mother and Tom's family were evicted from the apartment after that incident. They depleted all of Tom's savings to move into a rundown apartment. Apparently, my mother doesn't work, and she argues with Catherine almost every day. Tom is the sole breadwinner, toiling from dawn till dusk just to make ends meet. As for me, after distancing myself from my mother, I've managed to save more money and use it for my own needs. After all the sacrifices I've made in the past, aim to lead a life that brings me happiness from now on.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.